to the virtual GrowthCon stage. Give him some love in all the chats, Mr. Jesse Itzler.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear
Light
me?
it up, guys. Light it up. Light it up. Light the chat up. Come on. What's up, Jesse?
How are you? Can you hear me okay?
I hear you great, bro. I hear you great.
What an honor, man. What an honor to be back here. I love it. I was 10 minutes early watching the video, getting excited and getting into the chat room. I threw a couple of comments in there. Nobody really hit me back, but that's okay. But it's good to be here. I'm in my home office, Pete. This is my wall of fame behind me, reminding me of where I grew up in New York and some of my influential artists when I was growing up in New York, and it's great to be here.
Well, we're excited for you to be here, man. I'm going to let you take it to the top of the hour. You're one of those guys that I don't need to interview because the gold that lives inside of you, man, what you have for these people today is going to be profound. So Grant, Jared, myself, Elena, all say thank you for being here to serve them today, Jesse.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. I just wanted, before I even start anything, you had mentioned what are the big kind of roadblocks for people, and you said getting in your own way. And I think for me personally, the biggest obstacle to me, and maybe everybody here, if you're a young entrepreneur, is distraction. It's saying yes to too many things and spreading yourself out too far. My wife started Spanx with $5,000 in savings. She just recently sold it 2 years ago. But for the 20 years that she had it, she was a mile deep in Spanx. She was saying no to things that weren't, aligned with her mission, which was to create products that help women. And she stayed really focused. And it's really easy when you're an entrepreneur to be like, oh, that's a good idea. I'm going to start that also. And I'm going to start that also. It's really hard to build a brand in the United States of America, one brand, let alone multiple brands and multiple ideas. So I just wanted to share that because it came to my mind when you were talking about kind of obstacles and getting in your own way. It's okay to say no when you're on a mission to build something and start something or you have a big goal. For those that don't know me, I'm Jesse Itzler. It's an honor to be here. I've had a very unconventional journey as an entrepreneur, completely unorthodox. Let me just give you a little background because I'm not sure many people here know who I am. Pete mentioned a little. I am a father of four. I live in Atlanta. I am married to an entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur myself. I started out in the music business as a recording artist. It didn't go great for me, so I pivoted and started a bunch of different businesses. Some worked and some didn't. I had a private jet company called Marquis Jet, which became the largest private jet company jet card company in the world. We sold it to Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway's NetJets. I started that business with my partner with no aviation experience and no airplanes. So that's a whole different story. I was partners in a coconut water company called Zico, Z-I-C-O, Coconut Water, which my partner and I sold to Coca-Cola about 13 years ago. Had a fitness company called 29029 also that we sold to iFit. So I've had about 5 exits in my life, and I've had a ton of egg on my face as well. And I figured I would jump on here for about 30 minutes and share some of kind of like best practices of things that I've learned along the way in both business, but also in personal development. I know we have a wide audience, so if one or two of the things that I talk about today resonate, then the next 20 or 30 minutes will be well worth your time. If we have any time for some Q&A, I'm happy to do that as well, and answer any questions that you guys might have in the chat room at the end of this conversation. I just want to say that everything that I talk about today, none of it is based on theory. I'm just going to share stuff that happened to me, lessons that I've learned through my own personal experience, nothing I read, and share things that maybe can help you get from A to B faster, and also avoid things that might slow you down. Before we do that, every year at the beginning of the year, I draw 8 boxes like this, 8 boxes. And I have 8 categories, 8 buckets in these boxes. These aren't filled out because I didn't want anyone to screenshot it and see what all my goals are for the year. My buckets are business, health, adventure, finance, kids, marriage, fitness, and a personal bucket. And in these 8 buckets, I write down my short-term goals, my goals in those buckets for the year. So, for example, an adventure, I wanted to treat 10 friends to a trip to Finland. I just did that a month ago. Check that. I want to run a race called The Last Man Standing. All the things I want to do go into that, an adventure, go into that bucket. Some of them might not even be for this year, but as I have ideas for trips or things I want to do, they go in my adventure bucket. And I do that for all 8. My financial goals, my business goals, goals for my kids, or whatever. And then, and I monitor this. So like my whole life is simplified of what I want to accomplish basically in these 8 boxes. And it sounds so simple and ridiculous. And honestly, maybe you guys even have a better system than I have, but it's amazing. And then I look at these 8 buckets, and the buckets might be different for everybody, but those are the ones that apply to me almost every single day. And I set a path to achieve a lot of things on there. Anyway, at the end of the year, I go through the list and I check off what I've done. And then whatever else, what I didn't do carries on into the next year. So in 2024, I'm doing a review at the end of the year. I had a lot of things that I was able to do, a lot of really big victories, but I also had a really massive defeat. I lost my mom in 2024, and it was a really tough moment for me. And I want to share a little bit about my mom because it'll lead into what I want to talk about today. So very quickly, my mom was not famous. She's not someone anyone here probably knows. She wasn't great at a lot of things, but she was great at the things that mattered most. Incredible family, dedication, incredibly loyal, married for 60 plus years to the same man, just an unbelievable human and influence in my life. What my mom wasn't good at was technology. And I got a call from my mother. She was so bad that she would have to have my niece, who lived a mile away, come over and enter her passcode to get online, to upload videos, to look at, she couldn't do anything. So it was interesting to me when I got a call, before my mom passed away, I got a call and she said, Jesse, I need a really big favor. And I was like, sure, Mom, whatever you want. She's like, will you follow me on Instagram? I'm like, Instagram? You're on Instagram? I go, of course I'll follow you, Mom. What's your Instagram handle? Like, you're at what? She goes, oh, I'm at Bridge Bunny. I'm like, she played bridge. I'm like, Bridge Bunny? I'm like, Mom, that's a porn name. That's a porn name. You can't be at Bridge Bunny. So we changed it to Itz for Itzler, ITZ, Granny, Grandma, and I followed my mom. The night before my mother's funeral, I decided to, she didn't post anything or anything, so I decided to go to her account to see who my mother was following. So when I went to her list of followers, she was following everybody in our family only, and maybe a couple of friends. When I went to see who was following my mother, it got interesting. So my mother didn't have a lot of followers, and I was looking through the followers, and one group stood out, and it was a endurance race, one of the hardest 100-mile races. I'm an endurance athlete in the country, was following my 92-year-old mother. And I'm like, why in the world would this race be following my 92-year-old mother? And then I thought about it. Why wouldn't you follow my mom? My mom gave the best advice of anyone I've ever met in my entire life. And I realized that a lot of the advice, lessons, and things that had an impact on me have come from people like my mother. People that don't have 8 zillion followers, people that haven't set Guinness Book of World Records, people that haven't scaled Mount Everest. Everyday, blue collar, amazing people that have taught me things that have impacted me in business and in personal development. So much so that I've actually named rules after these people. I have Kevin's rule from my friend Kevin, who taught me about a rule about adventure, and all these different friends and people in my life. I've actually named the rules after them. And I thought what I would do today is and I have about 30 rules that I live by, named after friends. And I thought what I would do today is share 5 or 6 of those rules and principles that I've learned from everyday people with the folks on this call, to share a little bit of the wisdom that's been passed on to me with you. And maybe not everything will resonate, but again, if 1 or 2 of these rules stick, the next 20 minutes will be worth your time. We're going to cover some rules that incorporate business. We'll cover some that might incorporate even parenting. We'll incorporate a lot more than that incorporates mindset. And then we'll take some questions at the end. Sound good? Let me know in the chat room if that makes sense to everybody, if you guys are with me, because when I'm talking into a screen, I got no idea what's going on. Great. Jeremy, we got it. Okay. So the first rule is actually named after my son, Charlie. So when my son Charlie was 9 years old, he ran, believe it or not, his first marathon. Ran a marathon at our festival called Running Man that he was at, festival that I put on with my company, which is amazing. It's in September. And Charlie at 9 years old ran a full marathon. And he was getting a lot of attention after the marathon. So for like the next 2 weeks, everywhere we went in Atlanta, where I live, people were coming over to Charlie. Charlie, unbelievable, man. You ran a marathon at 9 years old? And he would look at them and they'd be like, that's amazing. And Charlie would look at them and he'd be like, thanks. And kind of put his head down and like, you know. And finally I said to him, I said, Charlie, these people are coming up for you. And they're so excited about you, you know, so excited about your accomplishment. And they're giving you this big congratulations and thanks. And you're kind of zapping that energy away without saying, you know, giving that same energy back. You're kind of just, you know, saying thanks and shrugging your head. And it's taking this amazing moment where people are going out of the way to compliment you and it's deflating it. I said, it would be great, and try it, if you said, thank you so much. That means so much to me. I really appreciate it. Just try to give that energy back and watch how it lights up. Watch how people start to talk about you even beyond the marathon because you acknowledged and received what they were giving you. So Charlie started doing it and it became unbelievable. And I realized in talking to him about this that I myself am really not great at taking compliments. And I realized that a lot of adults, probably a lot of people on this call, really aren't great at taking compliments. Fast forward 30 days later, I'm teaching a mastermind, a program in Arizona to a bunch of business executives. And I tell them this story. And I explain how important this little thing of just receiving and taking compliments back to somebody is really powerful with network, sales, business, leadership. And you can go 2 ways. You can receive it or you can stop all the energy right there. And I had this whole big lecture of just this thing that just happened with Charlie. And I went around the room and we practiced it or whatever. 20 minutes later, I go over to Melissa in my program. Melissa, I just heard that you rented an Airbnb for everybody the night before for the people that were coming in a day early. I go, that's unbelievable. You took the initiative on your own to get this Airbnb for all these people. And she looks at me, she goes, yeah, thanks. I go, Melissa, we just went over this. I just gave you a great compliment and you didn't really return it. Like, we're not playing ping pong and tennis. You took all the energy out of the conversation. Charlie's rule is super simple. And it might sound, what are you talking about, Jesse? This is a 10X conference. We're entrepreneurs. We're business people. Like, what? I don't need a lecture on, well, maybe you don't. But I can tell you firsthand that a lot of people struggle with how they take compliments. And if you receive a compliment by saying, thank you so much, I really appreciate it, that means so much to me that you thought about me. It goes so far. So my 2 cents on Charlie's rule is be aware of the way you receive compliments, be aware of the way that you give people compliments, because it matters. Pre's rule. About, 7 years ago, I was giving a speech in Arizona. I get off of the airplane in Arizona. I'm going down to get greeted by my driver, the driver that was picking me up. That got us, like the Uber guy, that got assigned to take me from the airport to the hotel before my speech. When I get to the, go down the escalator, I see a sign that says Itzler, and this gentleman is holding the sign. So we get in the sign in the car. His name is Pri. He introduces himself. He says, "Mr. Itzler, I heard that you like to run, and I know that you love smoothies." He said, "Your speech isn't for 4 hours. If you want, there's a mountain here called Camelback Mountain. It's not too far away. I brought my sneakers with me in the car. If you want, I'll take you up the mountain on a run, and then I'll take you to my favorite smoothie place, and I'll have you at your speech about 45 minutes before so you can get changed and be ready for the speech." I said, "You know what, Pri? I'll do that with you." So I went on this in the car. We drove to the mountain, and we got out and run. This is Pri. You guys can see. This is Pri and I getting into the car because he asked me for a picture. We're now business partners. Pri coached in my program. By the way, this is Pri and I at the run. So we went from this to this. We now work together. He coached in my business program for 5 years. We're talking about opening up Airbnbs that he manages for me. He was my limo driver. Now, Pri took a rule that's foundational to everybody here. We've always been taught when opportunity knocks, take advantage of it and open the door. Opportunity doesn't always knock. Pri didn't wait for opportunity to knock. Pri created his own opportunity. And we as entrepreneurs live in a world where we tend to wait around, oh, maybe this guy will call or maybe this will happen. It doesn't work like that. It works the way Pri did it. You have to go out there, separate yourself from everybody else, and create your own opportunity. That's Pri's rule. Maureen's rule is one of the best networking hacks of all time. Not to make this about grief or loss, but I also lost my dad fairly recently, about 2 years ago. And on the 2-year anniversary of my father's passing, I woke up and I had one text on my phone. And I clicked on the text. It was from my friend Maureen, Mo. That's why this is called Mo's Rule. And I'm not even that good friends with Maureen. I've never had dinner with her. I don't talk to her a lot. I don't text with her. We're friendly through association, through some programs that I have. Anyway, this is what the note said. "Jesse," I'm going to read it. "I know how much you love your dad and how much he shaped your life and values. It's hard to lose those we love, no matter how long we've had them here with us in person. I believe he's with you, and I'm guessing you'll feel his love and presence during your trip to the Grand Canyon," where I was going. "His legacy and love lives on through the amazing father you are to your kids. Just wanted you to know our thoughts and prayers are with you." What? I have 10,000 contacts or more in my contact list in my phone. One person texted me on the 2-year anniversary of my father's death, and it was Maureen. So I called her up and I said, "Maureen, how in the world did you remember that my father died 2 years ago?" She said, "Oh, I keep a list of people that are in my life month by month of things that have happened to them, good or bad, so I can reach out to them on the anniversaries of those events." I'm like, what? I will never, ever forget that Maureen did that. I have 10,000 people. One person reached out. It's Maureen. If Maureen needs a favor, Maureen has a favor from me for life. That was the best networking thing anyone's ever done to me in 50 years on earth, in 30 years of business, what she did off of a very simple list that she keeps. So on the conversation, I said, Maureen, that's genius. I'm going to do that. Do you mind if I do that? Can I keep a very simple list of people in my life, prospects, clients, suppliers, customers, family members, of big moments? I mean, how easy is that? So I started doing it. I just took out a little pad. I wrote January, February, March, April, May, and now I keep a list, and it takes me 1 minute, like it took her, to send a text, and it deeply impacts people. That's how you network, man. You don't put posts up. That's how you network. That's how you connect with customers. That's how you connect with people. That's how you separate yourself from everybody else. That's Maureen's rule. The brownie rule, a little business. When I went to American University in Washington, D.C. for school, the tuition at American's $40,000 a year now. I went for 4 years. So for $160,000 of my parents' hard-earned money, I learned one thing. I call it the $100,000 lesson. It's the brownie rule. So my senior year of college, I was at a crossroads. I was either going to go into the music business or I was going to sell a product called Aunt Franny's Brownies. My roommate in college had an Aunt Franny, and she sent us brownies every month. It made everybody laugh and happy. I don't know what she put in the brownies. Not really sure what the ingredients were. They made people happy. And I was like, I'm going to sell these brownies after college, man. They're amazing. So I took this advertising class my senior year, and for the final exam, we had to create a fictitious brand from scratch. A whole ad campaign around it. We had to do a jingle, we had to do a billboard, marketing packet, the whole deal. So I'm like, I'll use this brownie that we have. I'll use this class as my R&D department. I'll make the campaign around the brownie, Aunt Franny's Brownies. If they like it, I'll just roll it out and go right into the brownie business when I graduate. So the way the final exam was for this class, there were about 100 kids in the class. Everybody had to submit their work to the teacher, but the professor was going to pick 5 people out of 100 at random to do a 30-minute State of the Union oral presentation on your brand and the industry you were going into. I'm a senior in college. There's a 5% chance you're going to get picked for the oral presentation. Like, no one went down the whole lane of like, nobody wanted to get picked. We're going to hand our thing in and get the hell out of here and graduate. So the way the professor says, I walk in for the final, he goes, all right, we're going to do this a democratic way. Everybody take out a piece of paper, write your name on a piece of paper. I'll take a hat and pass it around, put your name in, and I'll pick the 5 names out of a hat of the people that are going to present. Sitting to my right was this guy named Ronnie, I'm not going to say his last name, who was a professional jackass. This guy bullied half the class for 4 years of college. So when the professor came to me, I took 20 pieces of paper. I wrote Ronnie's name down, put him in, and I stuffed them in the hat. The professor goes all the way around the room. This is a true story. Picks out the first name, and the first name that comes out of the hat, Jesse Itzler. The jackass did the same thing. So I get up to present Aunt Franny's Brownies in front of the class, and for $160,000 of my parents' hard-earned money, 30 seconds in, he stops me in front of the whole class. And he said, son, I want to know, what is your point of differentiation? I'm like, what does that mean? He says, what makes your brownie different than all the other brownies in the market? I said, oh, I'm home-baked. I'm moist and delicious. I could be gluten-free if you want me to be gluten-free. He said, no. He said, son, there's 1,000 brownies that come out every year. Substituted for real estate agent, marketer, lawyer, widget guy, whatever you do, anyone on this call, there's 1,000 of you every year that comes out. If you want your brownie to stand, to be, to make it, it has to stand out and be different than all the other brownies. Sit down. And from that moment on, I've always asked myself in business, one of the biggest lessons I've ever got, if nobody taught me how to do my job, how would I do it? If I ripped up the playbook that everybody in the real estate business was using for the last 50 years, what would my logo look like? How would I talk to my customers? What kind of letters would I write on their anniversary of a big event to get on their radar? How would I, without any experience or nobody telling me how to do it, how would I do it? That's where innovation comes from. That's where disruption comes from. That's where separation comes from against all the competition. I learned that at 21 years old in a throwaway class that I took to graduate American University, and it's been one of the biggest lessons. When I went into the aviation experience, because I had no formal background and I never took a business class, I didn't know anything about aviation, nothing. My partner and I started this company with no airplanes, no business experience, and grew it to a company that did $5 billion in sales in a 6-year window. I was a kiddie pool attendant 6 years before that. And the greatest gift that we had is nobody taught us how to do it. Our collateral looked different. Our sales pitches looked different. Our culture was built with a lot more unity, and it was different than the other cultures. And it worked. Be yourself. Figure out what works. Rip up the playbook. Be a different brownie. That's the brownie rule. Mindset. Lose rule. When I was coming up in business, I slept on 18 different couches between the ages of 18 to 22. 18 different friends put me up, couch to couch to couch, trying to figure out how I was going to make it as an entrepreneur. I sold carrot and celery sticks door to door. It failed. I had a t-shirt company that failed, a marketing company, record company went out of business. I was the kiddie pool attendant, like I said. I cleaned swimming. I did everything to try to figure out. When I slept on couch number 17 of the 18, I got a lesson that changed my life. It's called Lose Rule. I'm going to share it with you right now, named after my friend Lou Katz. So I'm sleeping on my friend's couch. It's a Friday night, and he says, Jess, you got to be out of here Monday. I'm like, Monday? What's going on? He goes, my parents are coming. You can't be on our couch. My parents are coming for 3 days. So instead of taking the weekend to try to figure out where I was going to live, my other friend was having a bachelor party in Atlantic City. I went to the bachelor party. I'm at the bachelor party, and I'm sitting at the bar ordering a drink, and a girl comes over to me. We're making small talk, and she asked me where I live. I said, funny you should ask. As of Monday, I have no place to live. So she takes a napkin. She writes her address on the napkin, gives it to me. She goes, well, if it's an emergency, you can always come stay with my roommate and I put it in my bag. Monday comes. My friend's like, you got to be out of here in 30 minutes, man. My parents are on the way. I'm like, this is an emergency. Pull out the napkin, 60th and 1st, Melissa Katz. I take a cab over with the one bag with all my possessions, knock on her door. I lived there for 6 months. Her father, as I didn't know at the time, was a big time, just how humble and amazing they were. I didn't know, but her father, as it turns out, was a really successful entrepreneur, owned a company called Kinney Parking, the biggest parking system in New York City. And at that time, my business model was I was in the music business. I was writing theme songs for professional sports teams. And my business model was insane. I would write the song on spec, go in a studio on my own nickel, record it, cold call the team, like the New York Yankees or whoever, the Philadelphia, any team, try to get a meeting. If I could even get a meeting, then I'd have to play them a song that I did and convince them to buy the song to play in their arena. It was the craziest business model. Anyway, I had no more money to write songs for theme songs. So someone had offered me $10,000 for 10, which I needed to like fund the production to like make these demos, for 10% of all of my future earnings. I'm 23 years old or something like that. He offered me 10% of my life for 10 grand. I'm like, I'll take it. I need the money. 10 grand. I could have a whole business on 10 grand that can, without the 10 grand, I have nothing. What, he wants to buy into me? So I tell Melissa, she goes, go talk to my father about this real quick. So I go and I take the meeting and with Lou Katz, and I tell him the story, and I'll never forget this. He said to me, Jesse, without the $10,000, will you make this? Will you make this company work? I said, Lou, I know I can make it work. He took a book he was holding, a notebook, he was taking notes, and he slammed it down. He said, I didn't ask you, can you? I said, will you? I know you can run a marathon. I know you can become a millionaire. I know you can start a podcast. I said, will you? I said, yes, Lou, I will. Then he said, son, then tell him to take the $10,000 and shove it right up his ass. There's a big difference between can and will. I know you can run the New York. When people say, you're running the marathon? Yeah, I'm going to try to finish the marathon. I'm going to try to run a marathon. You can't try to do whatever you're doing. Either you're doing it or you're not. I will become a millionaire. I will launch a podcast this year. I will run The Last Man Standing. I will take 10 friends to Finland. The words that we speak matter, man. They matter. People talk about visualization. You hear that all the time as an entrepreneur. What manifests that is the words that you speak. And there is a tremendous difference between can and will. Be careful about how you talk about your business, how you talk about your goals, how you talk about what's on your list. These aren't cans. These are wills waiting to happen right here. And that's been a foundational difference in my life. I'm back of the pack, everything. I'm head of the pack, conviction. I'm head of the pack, conviction. I will do what's on the sheet. I will become a millionaire is really important. Charlie's rule. Make sure you look somebody in the eye and take that compliment, man, and play ping pong and hit that energy back instead of taking away the gift that they're giving them. Pre's rule. When opportunity knocks, of course take advantage, but it doesn't always knock. Go create your own opportunity. Mo's rule. Be mindful of the people in your life and reach out to them on monumental times when other people aren't doing it to become memorable to them. That's how you network. The brownie rule. Rip up the playbook. If nobody taught you how to do your job, how would you do it? How do you stand out? Be a different brownie. Lose rule. Will versus can. The words that you speak, they guide you, man. As my friend Chad Wright says, that's your rudder. That guides you. This is your rudder. Be careful of what you want to speak. And lastly, I want to end on something really quick. My mother's rule. So we started with my mother. Let's end with my mother. About 2 months before my mother died, I got a call from my mom saying, invite the whole family over to your house. We're going to have a family dinner, have a photographer, and please have everybody get dressed up. Okay, Mom. So I got a photographer, had my whole family fly in. I got everybody dressed up. One by one, my mom started taking pictures with the photographer, with all of my children and my family in this beautiful purple dress that she had worn. No idea what's going on. About 2 months after that, I go to my mom's house on a Saturday on my way with my family to visit my mother-in-law. We stopped at my mom's for 3 hours. And then the next night was Mother's Day. And I called my mom up. I go, Mom, after 56 years on earth, I just want to let you know, you're still my go-to person for, I know we got to get off here in a minute. You're still my go-to person for advice. You still give me the best advice. Probably why people are following you on Instagram. And I thanked her for that. And you know what she said? Thank you so much, sweetie. I really appreciate it. That night, my sister was living with my mom at the time, a couple days a week to help her. My sister walks my mother to her bedroom at about 11 o'clock to put her down for bed and tuck her in. Halfway to the bedroom, my mom says to my sister, Jana, come back in the kitchen for a minute. They go back in the kitchen. My mom says, I want you to go get a bottle of the best champagne that we have and get the nicest glasses that we have. So my sister gets the champagne, 2 glasses, they pour it, and my mom says, Jana, I just want to make a toast to this incredible life that I've lived. They clink the glasses, drink the champagne. My mom puts my mother to bed. She never wakes up. She never wakes up. Can you imagine living for 90 years and on the last night that you're alive on earth, you pull out a bottle of champagne and you toast to your own life? My mother had 42 Instagram followers. My mom was never in the news. She never did any would be memorable to anybody here on this call except for me. She lived an exceptional life. She lived a life of like high ethics, family, values, charity. She was a school teacher. Man, my mom had had kids coming in. Everything you could imagine. Everything you can imagine. Not everybody here is going to be a star entrepreneur, going to have a zillion followers, going to rattle the world and, whatever. But everybody here could have an impact on other people, whether it's your family or friends, even the way Maureen had an impact on me. And maybe if you do, and you do something outstanding or something you've learned, you pass down to other people, maybe they'll even name a rule after you. And if they do, and they come over and they say, Brenda Baker, you did this and it's unbelievable. I named something called Brenda's Rule and I really appreciate it. If they do, maybe you'll look them in the eye and say, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. That means so much to me. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Couple of quick little tips that hopefully you can use and incorporate as we move forward. And I'm going to hand this over to the 10X and Pete and whatever else they got lined up, man. Hey, thank you to Grant. Grant put me on stage at one of the first 10X in Miami. Nobody knew who I was. There were 36,000 people there. And he gave me a shot for 45 minutes on stage. And since then, I've had an amazing run in public speaking and personal development. And so I just want to personally congratulate Grant on his anniversary and thank him for the opportunity. And man, when I got the call to come and just chat with you guys, he said, talk about whatever you got, whatever you want to talk about. That was something that was an immediate yes. It was an immediate yes. That's a no fee, Grant. Whatever you want, man. Absolutely. And thank you for the opportunity for me.
Hey, Jesse. Hey, guys, will y'all give it up for Jesse Itzler in the chat? Come on. Let's go. Man, even in the studio. Hey, Jesse, one of the things, I'm just going to pick up off of that because that was the first time Greg gave me a shot, too. And we were on, that's when
Greg.
I think you and I met for the first time.
Greg
I heard
Cardone.
you, I was blown away. You know, Grant can be misunderstood,
Greg Garrote.
but the dude is got a lot of power, a lot of superpower, and cares, really does care about people. Like when you get him off backstage, like he cares deeply about people. What is it that you appreciate about him most, for, like, as you've gotten to know him over the years?
Well, he's super smart. So there's a lot to learn from people, and he knows things in in areas that I don't. And I really encourage everybody here. When I was growing up, I didn't have the mentors that I had to meet in person, and now you can have virtual mentors and learn so much through podcasts, through Instagram, through social media. So, Grant provides a lot of value around that. I mean, obviously out at the conferences and this and that, where you can learn a lot. And I don't know a ton about real estate and other things that Grant's really good at. So he's someone I've been able to lean on over the years. And the other thing I would say is the way he loves his daughters, man.
Yes.
As a father of four, I value success probably very different than most people here do, just because we've been taught to think what the definition of success should be. But if you're going to talk about success and you have children, I think that that's an important bucket that needs to get graded, and he really cares about his daughters.
Bro, I've been in meetings backstage with him, like at his house, and if they walk in, it doesn't matter if he's talking about a $100 million property or talking about the next big idea, attention stops immediately. And that's the focal point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, he's the opposite. It seems like he does the opposite of what a lot of people do, Jesse. A lot of times. Hey, let's popcorn because we're gonna go to the main stage here in just a minute. Grant's about to open it up. But let's popcorn. For Jesse, the number one key to getting your idea out to the world is what?
I think before you even have that answer, you have to believe in the end of your story. I think if you're single, you have to believe he or she's out there. If you're an entrepreneur, you have to believe that your product is the best. If you're looking, there's one job available, you got to believe that Ricky Janelles is going to get it. If you're Ricky Janelles, and you got to believe that. So I think that's the first and foremost, because if you don't have that conviction, you won't be able to convey it, and people won't buy into it. People buy into people and stories and momentum more than products. Wow. So I think that's really important. I think that, try a lot of things. You can't give up on one thing if it doesn't work. When you have a product in the beginning, I think you have to have a lot of balls in the air and see what sticks. And then when you learn what sticks and works, then you have to step on the gas.
I love that. Jesse says the most important thing about marketing is what?
Oh my God, authenticity.
Authenticity. I love that. Jesse said...
I think the consumers are too smart, Pete. They know if someone's endorsed to say something. They know if something's hokey. They know if someone's fake. They know, you know what I mean? Like, yeah.
I love that. if you really want to get mass momentum in the sales bucket, what's critical in the sales bucket in Jesse's perspective?
Reps. I think you need reps. I don't think you're born great. There are exceptions to that rule, but things take time. So figuring out what works and what doesn't work, reps. If you're a public speaker, you need reps. If you're in sales, you need reps. If you're an author, you need drafts and reps. People don't understand, and it takes time, man. And stick with it. If you really believe in something, you have to stick with it. Don't get intimidated by the how. How is very intimidating. You want to live behind your why and your mission and your purpose. So if you have a product or a service you really believe in and you're really good at it, they always say you find your purpose at the intersection of these three things. What it is you love to do, becoming really good at it, and providing a product or service that helps people. So if you can find those three things, you've really found your purpose.
That's incredible. And the importance for your idea to scale actually to something big. Like you've seen it happen. Sarah's seen it happen. Like what to you is the critical thing for somebody's idea to not just get some momentum and some sales, but to really scale at a big level?
I think you have to start small, no matter what it is you do. And a lot of people make a mistake of trying to go too big too fast. You want to start small. You want to think really big. And then you want to scale really fast. So I think that's really important. I've made the mistake of starting too big, and you don't want to use the shelf space as your R&D department. You don't want to learn what customers want and like when you're already big. You want to figure it out and then go big.
Yeah.
So I think that's really important. And it's you really got to focus on the product. You could have the best marketing engine, the best management team, raise money. If the product isn't great, whatever you do, if you own a church or a synagogue, the service has to be great. If you own a restaurant, the food has to be great. The product has to be great. The competition's too good these days. You have to be really good at what you do.
Yeah.
It sounds so obvious, but I didn't go to Harvard to figure that out, but
I love that, man. Jesse, we are so grateful for you, bro. Like today, I'm seeing so much in the chat. Hey guys, before he leaves and before we give him a round of applause, will you let him know how impactful this was? What was your biggest takeaway from Jesse this morning? Biggest takeaway. And he's only in one of our several VIP rooms. There's 35 Zoom rooms right now. 35, right? 35 Zoom rooms right now. Would you let him know? Yeah, look at all of the stuff right there. Lots of love, but what was it that what rule stood out to you? Like 8 boxes. I'm so thankful. Yeah, I love it. Jesse, dude, thank you for always showing up and you are a light in a world that really needs it all of the time, man. Every room I'm in with you, every time I hear you speak, every time we have a phone call or a text message, man, you remind me of another guy that you might or might not know by the name of Bob Goff. Do you know Bob Goff?
I don't.
So just look up Bob Goff. He wrote a book called Love Does, Jesse. Love Does. And to me, like you are this younger version of Bob Goff. He's one of my favorite people because he loves people authentically and real. And everybody can see that in the chat with you today. Like what you bring into this world, the world's a better place because of you by a lot, man. So thank you for who you are, dude.
Yeah, in closing, I just want to reiterate, I'm not here to tell people what to do. I'm just wanted to share things that have had an impact on me, like little things about taking a compliment or, what Maureen did for me. Like those are things that I've carried on into my life. And, you go to business school and you learn all this stuff or whatever, but the blocking and tackling, some of the stuff that's the most obvious stuff that we all need to do is equally as important as the big lessons you learn there. So I hope there's 1 or 2 things that people took away that they can apply.
Dude, amazing. Guys, give it up for Jesse Itzler. Come on,